Hey guys, what's up, what's happening? The King of Games 98 here at your service. How y'all doing? Hope y'all doing good and staying safe. And this will be officially kicking off the Christmas movie reviews for December of 2024. So, starting off, we have A Christmas Carol from 1951 starring Alistar Sim as Ebenezer Scrooge. Now, I'm not going to spend this review video on this movie explaining the whole plot and premise of Charles Dickens' classic novella, A Christmas Carol. So instead, I will just say this. I love Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol story, mainly because it's a tale of redemption and how a single person can change his outlook on life and be generous and kind and loving towards others, and how it's reciprocated back to him, and how he goes from being a grumpy, miserable old man to a kind, generous, loving, and caring old man, and how the town he lives in goes from disliking him to then loving and embracing him. And then, everyone else he comes in contact with, they change his life and he changes their lives for the better. So that's how I'm really just going to leave it at that, because, come on. If you've seen one Christmas Carol, you've basically seen them all. But with the one exception that I like watching all different versions of A Christmas Carol, because it's the different actors and actresses in them that bring something new and different to the classic story that I love so much. So that's why I'm reviewing this, because 3 years ago, I think it was, Well, 3 years ago, I reviewed two different Christmas carols. Then I believe last year I reviewed another one. And so this year we will be doing another one. Now, so obviously this specific version of A Christmas Carol is very old. I was not alive when this came out. And, the majority of the people watching this movie review video can probably say the same thing. So if that's the case, then you're probably asking, who is Alistar Sim? Well, he was a famous British actor who did movies from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and even the 70s, leading up to his untimely death in 1976. So he was a pretty famous guy. Now, what's interesting about this specific version of A Christmas Carol is it has an opening monologue by Patrick Macnee. Hopefully I pronounced that right. And I wrote that down because I thought that was interesting. And I was like, I don't know who this is, so I'm going to look him up. Patrick Macnee starred in a lot of movies and TV shows. But the famous ones that I wrote down, I thought would be the most well-known. So he was in The Howling from 1981, A View to a Kill from 1985. I'm a big James Bond fan, so that's actually pretty cool. He was in A View to a Kill. Shout out to Duran Duran for doing the song for that Bond movie. Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which, come on, it's Alfred Hitchcock. And The Freaking Twilight Zone. Yes, the original Twilight Zone. So he's pretty cool in my book. Now, I thought this was interesting. So the DVD case clearly says A Christmas Carol. Then, on the opening title credits of the movie, it says Scrooge. And I'm like sitting there going, huh? So I was like, why does it do that? And is it A Christmas Carol or is it called Scrooge? Make up your mind. So after doing a little Googling on that, this movie is British because Alistar Sim is British. Well, Okay, not because Alistar Sim is British, but this is a British filmed movie. There we go. And Alistar Sim also happened to be British. So in the UK, this movie was released under the title of Scrooge, but in the US, it was released under the title A Christmas Carol by United Artists. Kind of odd and confusing, especially when I Googled this movie. It came up with the posters, and one said Scrooge and one said A Christmas Carol. That was really odd and confusing, but so cleared that up. This was interesting. So after Scrooge gets visited by the ghost of Jacob Marley, and he goes, "You'll be visited by 3 spirits." When the first one comes and it's the ghost of Christmas past, it's an old man playing the ghost of Christmas past. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. But normally, in just about every other version of A Christmas Carol that I've ever watched, it is normally portrayed, well, the role of the ghost of Christmas past is normally portrayed by either a little girl or an adult woman. There's really no in between. It's either one or the other. So I thought that was kind of odd, but I mean, not a bad thing, just kind of odd. Lastly but not least, what I wrote down while watching this movie on my little notes here, they changed Ebenezer's love interest's name from Belle to Alice. I do not know why they did that, and I mean, it's really not a big deal because other than a change in name, it does not affect the plot really at all. The plot still unravels like how it does in all of them. There's really, no difference there. I just found it odd that they changed her name from Belle to Alice. Yeah. Now, when I was Googling this movie, I couldn't find any information on why they did that. So if someone happens to know why they did that, please comment below. I'm a little curious about that. Now, the last and most important thing I have to say about the 1951 version of A Christmas Carol is Alistar Sim. If you've never watched this version, I would highly recommend watching it just for his performance alone. The way he portrays Scrooge in the beginning as a mean, callous old man, selfish, greedy, to then at the end being so energetic and full of life and being generous and caring and loving. His performance just steals the show in this movie. Just absolutely steals the show. So if you've never seen this version, I would recommend giving it a watch just for seeing his performance as Ebenezer Scrooge alone. Now, if you didn't notice, this says it contains 2 versions of the movie, one in black and white and one in color on this single DVD, which is true. That is a true statement. It does. I watched the original black and white version, and, since this movie was released in 1951, that's how it was originally released, in black and white. There is something about watching this movie in black and white that is eerie and creepy and adds to the atmosphere and effect of this movie. Now, I'm sure the colorized version is fine. It's probably good too. But I don't know, guys. There's something about this black and white, like in the street scenes, in the town scenes, in the scenes where it's going back in time, where it's going forward in time, the scenes where the spirits appear. There's just a lot of good scenes that in black and white add to the effect of this movie. They just really, really do. Well, guys, I can't say a single bad thing about this 1951 version of A Christmas Carol starring Alistar Sim. I really, really like this version. And I cannot recommend this enough, especially if you haven't seen it. It is definitely worth your time, especially being at only 86 minutes. So it's like an hour and I think it was an hour and 27 minutes. That's really not that long. So I highly recommend this, especially if you haven't watched it, just for Alistar Sim's performance of Scrooge alone. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know down below in this comment section if you've seen the 1951 version of A Christmas Carol before. Take care, guys.